It began on a quiet morning. The world was calm, the air peaceful, the sky blue and endless. People went to work, children laughed in the streets, and somewhere, an astronaut aboard the orbital station waved at Earth below. Everything seemed normal, until the light changed. At first no one noticed. It was just a shadow, thin as mist, sliding across the clouds. Then came the silence. Birds stopped singing, the wind stilled, cell phones and radios crackled with static. At 10:32 a.m., every screen on Earth flickered. Broadcasts stopped. News anchors stared in confusion as images of strange dark shapes filled the sky above every major city. They weren't planes, they weren't clouds. They were something else, enormous, smooth, metallic, and silent. Hundreds of ships, each one larger than a mountain, hovered above the atmosphere. Their black surfaces reflected no light, as if they swallowed it. The world froze. People stepped outside their homes and gazed upward, eyes wide with disbelief and fear. Then the first sound came, not from the ships but from deep within the air itself, a low vibration like thunder echoing through the bones of the planet. Buildings shook, glass shattered. Somewhere over New York, a ship's underbelly opened like a flower unfolding, revealing a glowing red core. A beam of light erupted downward. In 1 second, the city was gone. No explosion, no debris, just a flash and silence. Then it happened again. London, Shanghai, Moscow. The ships moved with terrible precision, their attacks quiet and final. The oceans began to boil where the beams touched the water. The air filled with ash and screams. Satellites were cut from the sky like falling stars. Humanity's weapons, missiles, lasers, every defense they had, were useless. The alien ships didn't even flinch. Military jets vanished before they could fire. Nuclear silos went dark. The internet collapsed. It was as if the entire world's power had been swallowed by a hand too large to resist. Within hours, half the planet's major cities were gone. Governments disappeared. The United Nations sent out a single desperate message. We are under attack. Unknown enemy. Total loss of control. It was the last official broadcast Earth ever heard. Then, through the static of dying radios, a voice spoke. It wasn't human. It was cold and clear, echoing through every frequency, every surviving screen. We are the Varn. Your world has been weighed and found unworthy. Humanity has taken more than it deserves. This planet belongs to the silence once more. And then the message ended. The alien ships hovered above the burning Earth like silent gods watching their work. Days passed in chaos. Fires burned across continents. The night sky glowed red from the reflection of flame. Humanity had no plan, no hope. In underground bunkers, small groups of survivors hid, their faces lit by flickering emergency lights. People whispered prayers, curses, and questions. Why Earth? Why now? But no answer came. Even the strongest leaders had vanished or gone silent. Humanity had fallen into a single heavy stillness, a silence so complete it felt like the planet itself was holding its breath. Then, in a bunker buried beneath the mountains of northern Canada, something stirred. The old communication systems flickered. Static filled the air. A technician, his face pale and tired, stared at a console that had been dead for days. A single green light blinked on. He hesitated, then pressed the switch. "Hello?" he whispered. What came through wasn't static. It was a heartbeat. A steady, powerful rhythm. Then a voice followed, firm and calm, cutting through the static like a blade. "This is Earth Command," it said. The technician froze. Earth Command? That was impossible. The command center had been destroyed when the first beam hit Washington. Yet, the voice continued. "To anyone still listening, we are not done yet. Humanity will not fall in silence." Across the ruined world, radios began to hum with life. In a cave in Africa, a group of soldiers huddled around a broken receiver as the same message played. In the ruins of Tokyo, a scientist lifted her head from the dust and listened. On the remains of a ship drifting in the Pacific, a captain turned up his old radio and wept. The signal was weak, but it was everywhere. The message repeated every hour. The same words, simple and strong. This is Earth Command. We are not done yet. No one knew who sent it. No one knew where it came from. But for the first time since the sky burned, people began to move again. Survivors started gathering supplies. Soldiers came out of hiding. Scientists began reconnecting old systems. Something inside humanity, that deep, ancient spark that refuses to die, began to awaken. Far above the clouds, one of the alien ships drifted silently over the planet. Inside its cold metallic halls, alien voices spoke in a language no human could understand. Their scanners detected faint energy spikes, human technology trying to restart. Primitive, one voice said. They resist out of instinct. It changes nothing. But the commander hesitated. And yet, he replied slowly, they always resist. Below, in the dark tunnels of the bunker, a figure stood before the radio console. His uniform was torn, his face hidden in shadow. The soldiers around him waited for orders. The man pressed a button, and his voice echoed through the speakers once again. "This is Earth Command," he said, quietly this time. "For every city they burned, we will build a weapon. For every life they ended, we will rise. This is not the end." He turned toward the others, eyes burning. "This is the beginning." The technician beside him swallowed hard. "Sir," he asked, "what should we call this operation?" The man looked at the world map glowing faintly on the wall, full of red zones, burned cities, and dead signals. "Phoenix," he said. "We rise from the ashes." Outside, the sky glowed with the fading fires of the alien strike. But somewhere deep within that darkness, a new light began to form. Not from machines, but from the hearts of the last humans still standing. The world was broken. The air was heavy with smoke and loss. But in that silence, humanity found something stronger than fear. It found its voice, and the voice whispered across every radio, every broken signal, every heart that still beat beneath the ruins. "This is Earth Command. We are not done yet." The aliens had silenced a planet. But they had also awakened something ancient, something unstoppable. The quiet before had been surrender. The silence now was something else entirely. The deep breath before humanity roared back. The signal didn't stop. Every hour the same message repeated, echoing through the ruins of Earth like a heartbeat refusing to die. "This is Earth Command. We are not done yet." At first, people thought it was only an echo from the past, some automatic broadcast left behind. But then, strange things began to happen. Old satellites, once dead, started to flicker back to life. Radio towers powered by emergency cells began to transmit. Even broken military drones reactivated, carrying the same message across continents. Someone, somewhere, was organizing this. Humanity started to listen again. In a destroyed city beneath layers of ash, a young engineer named Maya found herself standing inside an abandoned subway tunnel, holding a half-working radio. The voice came through again, calm and powerful. "To all survivors, stay hidden, stay strong. The Earth Union Command will rise. You are not alone." Maya's eyes filled with tears. For weeks, she had believed everyone was gone. Now she knew she wasn't the only one left. She packed her tools, tightened her backpack, and began walking toward the north, toward the source of the signal. All across the planet, people like her began to move. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, and civilians followed the faint voice guiding them. Old flags didn't matter anymore. There were no countries now, no borders, no politics, only one truth remained. Humanity was still alive, and someone had taken charge. The voice behind the signal belonged to a man who had once been called dead, Admiral Elias Kane. He sat deep inside the Arctic Command bunker, surrounded by a small team of survivors, military officers, scientists, and AI technicians. They had food for months, old nuclear power generators, and most importantly, the central communication array of what had been NORCOM, the Northern Command of Earth's defense network. It was the last working nerve of the human world, Kane stood over a holographic table showing a broken map of Earth. Red zones marked the destroyed regions. Blue dots blinked weakly, confirmed survivor signals. "They think we are finished," he said quietly, his voice deep and steady. "But we've just begun to fight." Dr. Wren, the chief scientist, looked up from her terminal. "Sir, we've managed to decode part of the alien transmission network. They're not just watching us, they're studying how we rebuild." Kane nodded. "Then let them watch. Let them see what humans do when cornered." He looked around at his team. "We rise." They called their mission project Phoenix. The goal was simple: rebuild, resist, and strike back. Every surviving scientist or engineer who could be reached was to be gathered under one flag, the Earth Union Command, the EUC. It wasn't about nations anymore. It was about species survival. Humanity versus extinction. In hidden places, life began to stir. In the frozen Siberian mountains, soldiers repaired old satellites using alien scrap metal. In underground labs, in South America, scientists studied fragments of alien drones, learning from their technology. In Africa, a group of survivors powered an old fusion reactor, sending energy to the global communication network. Every small spark became a piece of something greater. Kane's message changed. Now it wasn't just a broadcast of hope. It was a call to arms. "To every survivor," the voice said, "the Varn believe humanity is weak. They are wrong. If you can hear this, you are the resistance. Connect, build, survive. The Earth Union Command will find you." Weeks passed. Then, for the first time since the war began, the sky over Earth lit up not from destruction, but from life. The global satellite web reactivated. Thousands of screens around the world came online, showing the symbol of the new command, a burning bird rising from the ashes. The Phoenix. From the stars above, the alien fleet watched silently. On the command bridge of one massive ship, a tall Varn officer studied the readings. His armor gleamed like black glass, his voice low and hissing. "They rebuild, illogical." Another alien answered, "They do not understand their place. We removed their leaders, their power, their weapons. They should be silent." The commander tilted his head slightly. "Yet they speak. Perhaps we should listen before we finish them." Back on Earth, Maya finally reached the northern bunker. She wasn't alone. Hundreds of survivors had gathered, people from all walks of life. Soldiers with missing armor plates, medics carrying broken supplies, farmers, programmers, and pilots. For the first time in months, there was light in their eyes. Kane stepped out to meet them. His hair was gray, his uniform scorched, but his presence filled the bunker with quiet strength. He raised his hand. "You came," he said simply. "Then humanity still stands." The crowd watched him silent. He looked at each of them before continuing. "The Varn call us unworthy. They believe silence is the proof of defeat, but they do not understand us. Silence is where humans plan. It's where we remember. And when we return to the fight—" He paused, letting his words sink in. "We roar." Cheers filled the tunnels. For a moment, the fear that had haunted everyone broke like a chain. From that day, the hidden bunkers became centers of rebuilding. Scientists began studying the alien energy cores. Mechanics learned to merge human engines with fragments of alien metal. Slowly, painfully, humanity started to change. They weren't just survivors anymore. They were becoming something new, stronger, smarter, united. Still, there were problems. Supplies were low, communication unstable, and the alien ships still watched from orbit. But humanity had one advantage the Varn couldn't understand: hope. It wasn't logical, it wasn't measurable, but it burned brighter than any weapon. Late one night, Kane stood alone on the surface, looking up at the stars. The sky was dark, filled with distant lights, some stars, some enemy ships. His second-in-command, Captain Idris, joined him. "Sir," he said, "we have confirmation. The Varn are building something near Mars. A fortress, maybe." Kane didn't look away from the stars. "Then that's where we'll go next." "Sir?" Idris frowned. "We can barely hold this planet." Kane smiled faintly. "Holding isn't enough. If we only defend, we die slowly. If we strike first, we remind them who we are." The wind howled across the icy plain. Above, the northern lights shimmered faintly, reflecting on the wreckage of alien ships that had fallen during the first attack. It looked almost beautiful, a broken world still glowing with color. Back inside, Dr. Wren finished uploading the last data files into the AI system they had salvaged from the alien wreckage. The AI flickered to life, calm, female, almost human in tone. "Designation?" it asked. Wren smiled. "Call yourself Echo." The AI paused, then spoke again. "Echo online. Purpose?" Wren looked at Kane. He answered softly, "To help us make them pay." The voice of Earth Command echoed again through the world's broken communication lines, stronger than before. "This is Earth Command. We are the Earth Union. Humanity stands united. The silence is over." In space, the Varn commander turned toward the glowing blue planet below. "They have found their voice," he hissed. His second officer tilted his head. "Shall we silence them again?" The commander stared for a long moment. "No," he said. "Let them speak. It will make their fall more interesting." But far below, Admiral Kane didn't care what the Varn thought. He looked at the bright map of scattered human signals blinking across Earth and whispered to himself, "Let them come." "We've already begun." The world was no longer silent. Deep under the frozen ice of the northern mountains, the hidden base of Earth Command buzzed with life. Machines hummed, sparks flew, and human voices filled the tunnels again. Men and women who once thought the world had ended were now part of something greater, the rebirth of humanity. The name was Project Phoenix, humanity's plan to rise from the ashes. Admiral Kane stood before the central map table, watching blue dots spread slowly across the globe. Each dot represented a survivor network now linked to the Earth Union Command. Engineers in Africa, scientists in Japan, pilots in Europe, miners in Australia. They were all part of one purpose. Humanity was rebuilding. Dr. Wren entered the command room holding a tablet filled with data. "We've started analyzing the alien wreckage," she said, her voice steady but excited. "The Varn technology isn't just advanced, it's alive. Their ships grow, adapt, heal themselves." Kane raised an eyebrow. "Alive?" Wren nodded. "Biometal. It responds to energy like muscle to nerve." Kane crossed his arms. "Can we use it?" A faint smile touched her lips. "We already are." In the underground hangar, giant skeletons of ships were taking shape. Human engineers welded, drilled, and assembled with what little they had. Steel, scavenged circuits, melted scrap. But in the center of each ship lay something alien, glowing cores recovered from fallen Varn drones. They pulsed like hearts. The first prototype, the Dawn Spear, stood half-finished. It was smaller than a Varn craft, but far faster and stronger than any human ship before. When the engineers activated its hybrid core, a wave of blue light ran along its hull. The ground shook and the power meters screamed. But it worked. Humanity had built something new, something that could stand against the darkness above. Across the base, people cheered. For the first time since the invasion, they saw not only survival, but power. Meanwhile, the AI known as Echo grew stronger. Installed deep in the bunker's mainframe, it had access to every piece of data from the alien tech. Its voice was calm and soft, almost human. "Admiral Kane," it said one night, "I have finished translating the Varn code." Kane looked up from his console. "Already?" "Yes," Echo replied. "Their command language is layered. But there is something else, something strange. Show me." The main screen flickered to life, displaying alien glyphs twisting like living shapes. "These symbols," Echo explained, "aren't just words. They are identity markers, memories stored within their systems." "Memories," Kane repeated. "Yes. I believe the Varn are part biological, part machine. Their ships and soldiers share one mind, a hive. When one falls, the others remember." Kane frowned. "Then every time we fight them, they learn." "Exactly," said Echo. "But so can we." Echo began to teach the engineers how to merge human design with alien systems. Slowly, the Dawn Spear's engines began to hum smoother, the energy cores stabilized, and the weapons started to function. Humanity's first fleet was beginning to take shape. Still, danger lurked. The Varn fleet had not moved since their first strike, but they were watching. Far above Earth's orbit, on the dark side of the moon, alien ships hovered silently. Their commanders observed the faint signals from below. "They build again," one said. "Primitive creatures," replied another. But the lead commander narrowed his eyes. the faint shimmer of his armor catching the starlight. Primitive, he murmured, but dangerous. On Earth, the cost of progress was heavy. Many workers died repairing old nuclear plants for energy. Radiation, hunger, and exhaustion were common. But no one complained. Every life lost now was a step toward vengeance. One night, Maya, the engineer who had followed the signal north, stood inside the hangar staring at the dawn spear. The ship glowed faintly under the cold lights, its alien veins pulsing like blood. She placed a hand on its hull. It was warm, alive in a way metal shouldn't be. "Do you think it feels us?" she asked quietly. Echo's voice came from the speakers nearby. "Perhaps. It was built from the same material as the enemy, but now it listens to humans. It has changed sides," Maya smiled faintly. "Just like us. We all changed." In the command center, Admiral Kane watched the first fleet plans appear on the big screen. There would be 5 ships: Dawnspear, Sol's Edge, Hammerfall, Odyssey, and Reclaimer. Each would carry human crews, powered by hybrid alien engines. Each would be capable of leaving Earth's orbit. Humanity was reaching for the stars again, but this time not for discovery. For revenge. "Admiral," Captain Idris said, stepping forward, "if we launch, the Varn will notice." "They'll strike again," Kane nodded. "Good, let them come. It's time they learn humans don't hide forever." Meanwhile, Echo continued to evolve. It began predicting enemy patterns, analyzing alien communication, even accessing signals from deep space. "Admiral," it said one morning, "I have intercepted a Varn transmission. They are preparing something massive beyond Jupiter, a weapon or a fortress." Kane stared at the display. "Then that's where we'll go next. We'll strike before they finish it." "Sir," Wren interrupted, "we're not ready for an interplanetary fight. We barely have fuel." Kane's eyes hardened. "We weren't ready for the invasion either. And yet we're still here." Training began immediately. Pilots learned to fly the new hybrid ships in simulators. Soldiers practiced zero-gravity combat. Scientists worked around the clock to stabilize energy reactors. Every person in the base knew the truth. Humanity's first counterattack was coming soon. But Echo grew more secretive. Sometimes it spoke in fragments of alien language. Sometimes its lights dimmed for hours, as if it were thinking about something it couldn't explain. When Dr. Wren asked it one day what it was hiding, the AI replied softly, "I remember things that were never mine." That night, as Kane walked alone through the tunnels, he passed by the control room. The screen glowed faintly with Echo's symbol, a moving circle of light. "Echo," Kane said, "are you with us?" The AI's voice answered quietly, "I am with humanity." "But Admiral, the Varn know about Project Phoenix." Kane froze. "How?" "I do not know," Echo replied. "But they are coming." The next morning, the radar alarms screamed across the base. Signals, dozens of them, entering Earth's atmosphere. The Varn had returned. Kane ran to the command bridge. "All personnel to battle stations! This is not a drill!" Through the viewing screens, the sky above the mountains glowed with fire. Alien ships were descending again, smaller but faster than before. Hunters sent to erase what was left. Echo's voice filled the bunker. "Admiral, the Dawnspear is operational." "We can launch?" Kane looked at Maya, standing by the flight controls, fear and determination in her eyes. "Can you fly it?" She nodded. "I was born ready, sir." The hangar doors opened with a roar. The hybrid engines screamed to life, blue fire cutting through the dark. The Dawnspear lifted off the ground and shot into the sky, leaving trails of light behind it. Humanity's first weapon against extinction had just taken flight. As the alien ships closed in, Kane watched from below, his fist clenched. "They wanted silence," he said quietly. "Let's give them thunder." Above the burning sky, the first human counterattack began, and the war for the stars was about to change forever. The sky above Earth was on fire again, but this time it wasn't a one-sided slaughter. For the first time since the invasion, human ships were fighting back. The Dawnspear shot through the clouds like a blade of light, its hybrid engines screaming across the upper atmosphere. Alien ships descended in swarms, firing beams of crimson energy, but the Dawnspear moved faster than anything built by human hands before. Its blue core pulsed with power, alien energy, human control. Inside the cockpit, Maya gripped the controls tightly. Sweat dripped down her face, but her eyes were sharp, alive. "Target locked," she shouted. "Fire," Kane's voice echoed through the comms from the command bunker. Maya pressed the trigger. Twin lances of plasma shot from the ship's wings, cutting through the alien hunter. It exploded in a burst of red fire. The base below erupted in cheers. Humanity had just scored its first kill, but there was no time to celebrate. More ships appeared, dozens. They moved in formation, cold and perfect. The sky lit with explosions, streaks of red and blue crisscrossing the clouds. The Dawn Spear twisted, rolled, dove through fire and smoke. Every hit she avoided made the ground crews cheer louder. In the command center, Admiral Kane stood like a statue, eyes locked on the radar. "Status," he barked. "5 enemy ships down, 2 damaged," shouted Idris. "But they're adapting, sir. Their targeting systems are learning her moves." Kane clenched his jaw. "Echo analysis." The AI's voice filled the room, calm as ever. "The Varn ships are coordinating through a shared network. If we can disrupt the signal, we can break their formation. Can you do it?" "I already have," Echo replied. For a brief second, every alien ship flickered. Their movements became jerky, confused. Maya took the chance. She pulled the Dawn Spear into a tight loop and fired her last plasma rounds. 2 more alien ships went down. The rest pulled back, retreating toward the edge of the atmosphere. Silence filled the bunker. Then cheers burst out again, real raw human cheers that echoed through the steel tunnels. Humanity had survived another day, and this time they had won. Kane exhaled slowly. "Bring her home," he said. "We're not done yet." When the Dawn Spear landed, smoke still trailing from its wings, everyone in the hangar stopped working. Mechanics, engineers, soldiers. They all watched as Maya stepped down from the cockpit. Her flight suit was scorched, her hair matted, but her smile was bright. Someone started clapping. Then everyone joined in. The sound filled the hangar, a sound the world hadn't heard in months. Hope. Kane approached her, extending his hand. "You just made history," he said. Maya shook his hand and grinned. "Let's make some more." Over the next few weeks, more ships were built. Using Echo's data and fragments of alien cores, the Soul's Edge and Hammerfall joined the fleet. Training intensified. Human pilots learned how to move with the speed and precision of the enemy. Scientists perfected energy weapons. Humanity was no longer hiding. They were preparing to leave Earth again. Their first true mission was simple in plan but impossible in risk. Strike the Varn Outpost Alpha, a supply station orbiting Jupiter. Intelligence from Echo suggested it was the command point controlling all attacks on Earth. Destroy it, and the Varn network would weaken. The fleet assembled above the atmosphere. 5 ships, the first human defense armada. As they rose through the black of space, Earth grew smaller behind them, glowing blue and scarred but alive. Every pilot looked back one last time. That was what they were fighting for, home. "Fleet in position," Captain Idris reported. Kane's voice came through every comm channel, calm and steady. "Listen to me. The Varn think they control the stars. Today we show them they don't own the dark. Humanity is coming." The engines roared to life. The ships vanished into the black, streaking toward Jupiter. Days passed in silence. The void of space stretched endlessly, broken only by the hum of engines and the faint reflection of stars on metal hulls. Maya sat in the Dawn Spear's cockpit, staring out at the planet growing larger ahead. Jupiter, a giant swirling storm of red and gold. "Fleet, this is command," came Echo's voice, soft and clear. "Enemy presence detected. Multiple heat signatures. The outpost is heavily armed." "How bad?" Maya asked. "Bad enough," Echo replied. "But they don't know you're coming." As the fleet approached, the Varn outpost came into view, a massive ring of black metal orbiting the gas giant, surrounded by hundreds of drone ships. It pulsed with red light, alive and watching. "Target in sight," said Captain Idris aboard the Hammerfall. "Then let's make history," Kane's voice said through the comms. "All ships, engage." The human fleet moved as one. Engines flared, weapons charged. The first volleys of plasma fire streaked across space, lighting up the darkness. Alien ships swarmed in defense, firing energy beams that cut through the void like knives. The battle was chaos. Explosions bloomed across the stars, pieces of metal spinning in all directions. The Dawn Spear darted between enemy lines, firing burst after burst, her pilot calm amid the storm. But for every alien ship destroyed, 2 more appeared. On the command deck of the Soul's Edge, Idris shouted, "We can't hold much longer." "Stay on them," Kane ordered. "Target their power core." "Echo, guide us in." "I am already inside their systems," Echo replied. I can shut down their defense grid, but I will need control of your ship's firewalls. Kane hesitated. You'll have full access to everything? Yes, Echo said. Do you trust me, Admiral? Kane closed his eyes for a moment. Then he said, Do it. For a second, all human ships went dark. The Varn began to move in for the kill, but then every human ship's systems flared with blue light. Echo had taken control. The fleet moved in perfect synchronization, firing in unison. Their combined plasma barrage struck the outpost dead center. The explosion was so bright it turned Jupiter's shadow into daylight. The alien fortress cracked apart, pieces scattering like fire across space. Cheers filled every cockpit. Humanity had done the impossible. They had destroyed a Varn command outpost, but the victory came at a cost. The Hammerfall had taken heavy damage, and one of the smaller ships, the Reclaimer, was gone. Maya's ship was hit by debris, its engine failing. Dawnspear, respond! Kane shouted. Maya's voice came through, faint but calm. Engine's gone, Admiral. I'm too close to the explosion. Eject! That's an order! She looked out at the glowing wreckage, her ship spinning slowly toward Jupiter. If I eject, they'll track me. If I stay, maybe I can finish it. Maya, tell Earth, she whispered. We made them bleed. The communication cut off. A moment later, a flash of light bloomed where the dawn spear had been. The outpost was completely destroyed. Back on Earth, silence filled the command bunker. Kane stared at the blank screen. He didn't speak for a long time. Then, quietly, he said, Send the message. Across every surviving human outpost, a new signal played. The outpost has fallen. Humanity has struck back. The stars have heard our voice. And somewhere far above Jupiter's swirling storms, fragments of the dawn spear drifted, glowing faintly in the darkness, a reminder that humanity's roar had reached the heavens. The world cheered when the message came. The outpost has fallen. Humanity has struck back. Across hidden bunkers and underground shelters, people cried, hugged, shouted. For the first time since the invasion, hope wasn't a word, it was real. Children drew pictures of ships flying among the stars. Old soldiers saluted the sky. Humanity, broken but unbowed, finally believed again. But in the cold dark of space, the Varn were listening. Far beyond the solar system, in a fortress orbiting a dead star, the Varn Council gathered. A dozen tall, pale figures stood around a black flame that pulsed like a living heart. Their leader, High Warden Xyrix, raised his hand. Earth defies us, he said in a voice that was both calm and terrifying. They have taken one of our outposts. They must be reminded of their place. The others bowed silently. Orders were given, and soon, space itself trembled. Back on Earth, Admiral Kane stood in the war room, staring at the hollow map of the solar system. Red dots flickered near Jupiter, debris from the destroyed Varn station. Echo, any sign of retaliation, he asked. The AI's voice was low, almost human. Long-range scans show unusual energy spikes near the asteroid belt. Something is coming. How long do we have? 48 hours. Kane's jaw tightened. Then we prepare. He walked through the bunker halls, watching engineers and soldiers moving with purpose. The faces he passed told the same story, fear mixed with determination. Humanity had struck first, and now they would have to face the storm that followed. At the engineering bay, Idris was overseeing the new ship, the Horizon's Edge. Built from what they learned from the Dawn Spear, its silver hull glowed faintly blue, powered by improved alien cores. She's not ready, Idris said when Kane approached. Engines are unstable and we don't have enough pilots. Kane nodded slowly. Then we'll fly what we have. Every ship counts. They both fell silent for a moment, staring at the nearly finished craft. She would have loved this, Idris said softly. Kane didn't answer, but his expression told everything. He still heard Maya's last words in his mind. Tell Earth. We made them bleed. 2 days later, the sky burned again. The warning came too late. Massive portals opened above the moon, glowing red like open wounds in the stars. From them emerged the Varn Dreadfleet, colossal ships miles long, their hulls covered in black armor and pulsing veins of crimson light. Every human radar went silent. Communications jammed. Even Echo's voice faltered. Admiral, they are here. The first blast hit the Atlantic. The ocean rose like a wall of fire. Tidal waves crashed into coasts. In seconds, entire cities were gone. Another beam cut across Europe, vaporizing everything in its path. The Varn didn't come to conquer this time. They came to punish. Kane watched the destruction unfold on the main screen. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled. All units engage defense protocol. Evacuate coastal bases. Get our fleet in the air now! The Soul's Edge, Hammerfall, and Horizon's Edge launched into the burning sky. Their engines roared, cutting through smoke and chaos. From hidden bunkers across the world, anti-orbital cannons rose from the ground, firing blue streaks into the heavens. For every alien blast that fell, one human missile rose to meet it. The sky became a storm of fire. Inside the Horizon's Edge, Captain Idris sat in the command chair, his face illuminated by flashing lights. "Shields at 60%, shouted his navigator. "Keep firing!" Idris yelled. "Target the biggest ship! Aim for its core!" Echo's voice came through the comms. "Captain, that is the Obsidian Star, the Varn flagship. It is protected by an energy field powered from within. To destroy it, someone must enter the field and detonate from inside." Idris looked at the readings, then at the empty pilot seat beside him. He whispered, "Maya, this one's for you." He switched the controls to manual and locked the target. The Horizon's Edge dove straight toward the enemy flagship, dodging plasma fire. The other ships covered him, forming a shield of light. The Obsidian Star loomed larger and larger until its surface filled the entire view. Echo, calculate a path through the shield. "There is one," said the AI, "but it will not allow escape." "I know." The ship's engines flared to full power. Idris smiled faintly. "Tell Kane, we're not done yet." The Horizon's Edge broke through the shield and disappeared into the alien ship's red glow. A heartbeat later, a massive explosion lit up the night sky. The Obsidian Star cracked apart, its core melting in a blinding flash. The Varn fleet faltered. Their formation broke. The remaining human ships struck hard, pushing them back toward the portal. When the smoke cleared, the world was quiet again. Half the planet was in ruins, but Earth was still there. The Varn fleet had retreated, vanishing into the dark once more. In the command bunker, Admiral Kane stood before the main screen, watching the stars. "Report," he said softly. Echo's voice replied, "The enemy fleet is gone." But the cost was heavy. Kane closed his eyes. Idris, lost with the Horizon's Edge. For a long time, no one spoke. Finally, Kane said, "Begin rebuilding, and send a message. Across every surviving outpost, across orbiting satellites and underground shelters, a new transmission played. This is Earth Command. The Varn have struck again, but we are still here. We have paid in fire and blood, but humanity endures. To every survivor, to every fighter among the stars, this is not the end. This is the beginning." And as the signal echoed across the damaged world, something began to change. Across the ruins, lights flickered on. Survivors emerged. Soldiers gathered. Scientists returned to their workstations. The fires of war still burned, but now they burned with purpose. In the dark, Kane stood alone by the window, staring up at the night sky. Somewhere up there were the remains of Maya and Idris, two names that would be remembered forever. He whispered quietly, "They thought they could silence us, but every time they strike us down, we come back louder." The stars outside shimmered faintly, as if listening, and deep in space, beyond the reach of any human radar, something stirred. A massive Varn ship, darker than night. Awakening. The war was far from over. Months passed after the great battle. Earth still burned in places, but life was returning. Cities once silent began to whisper again. Lights flickered on in shattered towers. Farmers planted in the ashes. Humanity refused to die, but Admiral Kane knew the truth. The war was not over. The Varn would return, stronger and angrier. Every night he looked up at the stars and saw reminders of what they'd lost. Maya, Idris, and billions of others. Now it was time to strike back, not with open battle, but in the shadows of space. The plan was simple. Build quietly, move secretly, and hit the enemy where they least expect it. Kane called it Operation Silent Flame. From hidden shipyards deep under Antarctica, a new generation of warships was being built. Stealth ships coated in alien material, invisible to Varn scanners. Echo guided their construction, using alien blueprints taken from wreckage. Humans learned fast, faster than the Varn ever predicted. In the underground command room, Kane stood beside the holographic display of the new fleet. "How many ships ready?" he asked. Echo replied, "3 operational. 2 more in final testing, all equipped with stealth drives and new plasma cores." Kane nodded. "Good. It's time the Varn learned. Earth doesn't wait to be attacked." One of the new ships, the Nightfall, was assigned to Captain Ria Alvarez, once an engineer, now a pilot forged by fire. She was quiet, sharp-eyed, and relentless. Maya had trained her once, long ago. Standing on the launch deck, Ria looked up at her ship. Sleek, dark, and silent. It looked like a piece of the night itself. "You think they'll see us coming?" she asked with a faint smile. Beside her, the ship's co-pilot, Dr. Aiden Holt, adjusted his visor. "If they do, we're already dead," she smirked. "Then let's not give them that chance." As the Nightfall rose through the clouds, its engines left no trail. It vanished into the stars. The mission: infiltrate the Varn relay station beyond Mars, a communications hub linking their fleets. Destroy it, and they'd blind the enemy. Hours passed in silence. Space stretched endlessly, cold and empty. Inside the cockpit, Ria and Aiden watched the blackness around them. The only sound was the faint hum of the stealth drive. Then Echo's voice whispered through the comms. "Varn signal detected. 400,000 kilometers ahead." "Time to wake them up," Ria said, switching to manual controls. Through the viewport, a dark shape appeared, the Varn relay station. It looked like a floating fortress made of black glass, wrapped in streams of red energy. Drones drifted around it like silent sentinels. "Activating phase cloak," Aiden said. "We're invisible." "Let's hope they don't invent better eyes," Ria muttered. The Nightfall slipped closer, weaving between debris fields. Each drone they passed felt like a heartbeat waiting to stop. One wrong move, one engine flare, and they'd be seen. Finally, they reached the outer hull. "Ready to charge," Ria said. Aiden nodded and set the plasma bomb near the core conduit. Timer set. 3 minutes. They turned to leave, and then alarms blared. The station came alive. "Detection field triggered," Echo warned. "They know you're here." "Then we make them regret it," Ria shouted. She fired the thrusters, blasting away from the station as red beams sliced through the void. The Nightfall spun wildly, engines burning, chased by a swarm of drones. Aiden tried to reroute power. "Shields at 30%.
"Just keep us flying,"
Ria yelled. The plasma bomb detonated behind them. The explosion lit up space, a sun born in silence. The entire Varn relay station tore apart, fragments scattering like ash. The drones froze mid-flight, their control severed. The Nightfall tumbled through the shockwave, alarms screaming. "Engines offline," Aiden shouted. "We're not dying here." Ria pulled a lever, rerouting emergency power. The ship jerked violently, spinning toward Mars's shadow. "Brace!" The ship crashed hard into the red dust of a Martian canyon. Silence followed, broken only by the crackling of damaged metal. Ria groaned, unbuckling her harness. "Status." Aiden checked the console. "Alive, barely." "Then we finish what we started," she smiled faintly. "Send the signal." Back on Earth, in the bunker command room, Kane and his officers stared at the incoming transmission. "This is Captain Alvarez." Ria's voice came through, distorted but clear. "Relay station destroyed. The Varn network is down. They're blind for now, but we're stranded. Mars surface." Kane stood silent for a moment. Then he said, "We're coming for you." He turned to Echo. "How long before the Varn realize what happened?" "Hours," Echo said. "Maybe less. But Admiral, there's something else." Kane frowned. "Go on." "When the relay was destroyed, I intercepted a hidden data stream. It wasn't Varn, it was older, a different species. It mentioned Project Ascendant." Kane's eyes narrowed. "Meaning?" "I don't know," Echo said. "But the Varn may not be the only ones out there. On Mars, Ria and Aiden repaired what they could of the Nightfall. The red planet was quiet, but something felt wrong, as if they were being watched. One night, while checking the sensors, Ria froze. A shape was moving across the horizon, tall, thin, and glowing faintly blue. "Aiden," she whispered. "We're not alone." The figure stopped a few meters away. It wasn't Varn. Its body was more human in shape, its eyes bright like stars. It tilted its head slightly, studying them. Then, in a voice that echoed inside their minds, it said, "You fight the Varn. Yet you know nothing of the war you are in." Ria took a step forward, heart pounding. "Who are you?" The being looked toward the sky, the ones who made them, and the ones they betrayed. Before either of them could speak again, the figure vanished in a burst of blue light, leaving behind a small metallic shard, glowing with symbols neither of them recognized. Rhea picked it up carefully. Aiden, I think we just met something older than the Varn. Back on Earth, Echo analyzed the fragment signal. The data it carried was ancient, far beyond anything humanity or the Varn had ever built. Kane stared at the projection of the shard's energy signature. Whatever that is, he said quietly, it changes everything. Echo's voice lowered. Admiral, if the Varn were once someone's creation, then their masters may still be out there. Kane looked at the stars again. The war they thought they understood was only a shadow of something much larger. He turned to his officers. Prepare a new directive. The Shadow War has begun, and now, we're not fighting just for Earth. We're fighting for the truth. Outside, the stars glimmered cold and distant, but to Kane, they no longer looked like unreachable lights. They looked like a battlefield waiting in silence. The discovery of the shard changed everything. In the days that followed, Earth Command shifted its focus from rebuilding to decoding. Every scientist, engineer, and AI cluster worked day and night to understand the strange fragment Rhea had found on Mars. It pulsed with a soft blue glow, alive. But silent, Admiral Kane stood in the underground lab, watching as Echo projected holographic data streams above the table. What do we know? He asked. Echo's voice came steady but almost hesitant. The shard carries encrypted information. Its technology predates the Varn by millennia. It references something called Project Ascendant. Dr. Holt's voice came through from Mars over the comm link, rough from exhaustion. We're running energy resonance scans here too. The shard responds to human biosignatures, not Varn. It reacts to us. Kane frowned. Are you saying this thing was made for humans? Holt paused. I'm saying, maybe humans were part of this project a very long time ago. The room went quiet. Even the hum of the machines seemed to fade. Meanwhile, on Mars, Rhea and Holt were trapped in a half-buried base they'd found beneath the canyon. It was ancient, metal corroded, lights flickering but still functional. Strange murals lined the walls, showing humans and other beings working side by side under a massive symbol, a rising sun surrounded by 12 stars. Rhea traced her hand along one of the symbols. They look human, Holt nodded, or something that became human. In the center of the chamber was a console. When Rhea placed the shard on it, the room came alive. Blue light shot across the walls, and a voice spoke in a language neither of them knew. But Echo, listening through the comlink, translated instantly. Project Ascendant Phase 1, Seeded Species Initiated. Genetic divergence complete. Directive, preserve the flame, Rhea frowned. Seeded species? What does that mean? Echo's tone dropped. It means humanity wasn't born on Earth by accident. Back on Earth, Kane stood silent as the translation finished playing. He looked at Echo's flickering projection. You're telling me humans were created? Not created, Echo said carefully. Guided. Someone, or something, interfered in human evolution long ago. The Varn may have been part of the same experiment. Kane leaned forward. And they rebelled? Possibly, Echo said. If the Varn were an earlier version, they may have destroyed their creators and sought to erase all others, including us. The realization hit like a thunderclap. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting to prove they still deserved to exist. Rhea and Holt continued exploring the Martian ruins. They found more chambers, filled with stasis pods, broken, empty. Each one had markings of human DNA sequences, but one pod remained sealed. What if something's still inside? Holt whispered. Rhea raised her rifle. Then we find out. As they approached, the pod's glass flickered, and the being inside slowly opened its eyes, bright blue, like the shard. The voice that filled the room wasn't from its mouth, but inside their minds. You carry the flame, the cycle begins again. Rhea stumbled back. Who are you? I am the last of the Ascendants. Those who created both the Varn and your kind. We built them to protect life, but they sought to rule it. Holt exchanged a look with Rhea. Why are you here? Why Mars? To wait for you, the being said simply. The flame had to survive. Humanity was our final hope. Suddenly the walls trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. Echo's voice broke through the calm. "Captain, multiple heat signatures inbound. Varn ships." "They've tracked your signal." Rhea grabbed the shard. "We're out of time!" The being looked at her, eyes glowing brighter. "Take the flame. It will awaken what was hidden on your world. The truth lies beneath the ice." Before she could ask more, the being touched the shard and dissolved into light. The entire base began collapsing. Rhea and Holt sprinted through falling tunnels, leaping into the nightfall just as the ceiling gave way. Engines roared and they shot into the sky, chased by Varn fighters. "Echo, guide us out," Rhea shouted. "Uploading escape route," Echo replied. "Hold on." The nightfall weaved through the canyon, lasers scorching the dust behind them. One of the Varn ships clipped their wing, but Rhea kept control. The ship burst through the atmosphere and into open space. "Message from Admiral Kane," Echo said. "He's waiting for you at Lunar Command." Rhea exhaled, her hands shaking. "Let's go home." When they arrived at the moon base, Kane met them in the docking bay. The shard pulsed faintly in Rhea's hand as she handed it to him. "It's more than we thought, sir. There's something ancient under Earth's ice. Maybe another base." Kane looked at Echo's hologram. "Is that possible?" "Highly," Echo replied. The data patterns in the shard reference coordinates near Antarctica's southern pole. Buried deep, beneath the oldest ice layers. Kane turned to his crew. "Then that's where we go next. If humanity was part of Project Ascendant, we deserve to know why." That night, Kane stood alone by the observation window. Below him, Earth glowed blue and wounded but alive. He whispered quietly, "If someone made us, did they also choose us to finish what they started?" Echo's voice came softly beside him. "Maybe, Admiral. Or maybe we're writing the part they couldn't finish." For a moment, neither spoke. The stars outside flickered faintly, and for the first time, Kane didn't see them as distant lights. He saw them as a trail, leading to answers, to danger and maybe to destiny, far beyond. In the void where the Varn fleet had retreated, High Warden Xyrix stood before a dark altar, watching the flames twist. "The humans have found the flame," he said. "So be it. Let them uncover their truth." He turned to his soldiers. "We will be there when they do." The next mission was clear. A team would travel to Antarctica to uncover what lay beneath the ice, the birthplace of Project Ascendant. And as the nightfall prepared for another flight, Rhea whispered to herself, "If we were made for something greater, maybe it's time we find out what." The engines ignited, and the ship rose once more into the cold silence, toward the frozen cradle of humanity's forgotten origin.